I've been here 24 years, 25 years in the army, trying to decide what to do. I could get a safe job if I was prepared to move. My family had settled in this part of the country, and so therefore I decided to stay around this area. I went for jobs that linked my previous experience and attended the South of England College on a course. The course was 6 months long, and the course was for production control in industry. Now this appeared to be fraught with jumping from the frying pan into the fire type thing, and part of the course was to lecture to fellow students on any subject you chose as a sort of confidence booster. I had picked up this as a hobby when I was stationed with the Americans, and so I gathered together all my bits and pieces and took them to the college and started to talk to fellow students, at the same time demonstrating, and what was supposed to be half an hour ended up as an hour and a half, and all the tutors turned around and said, "Why are you here? You've got a business there." So that was the boost I needed. I then went to the library, got a book, found out where the nearest craft centre was, and it was this one. I came here, paid a visit, introduced myself, and in turn was introduced to a wood carver. The wood carver made furniture, and he asked me could I upholster some chairs with leather. I produced the designs and upholstered his chairs. He then said, "Get yourself a studio. I've got 4 years' work for you." So on the 1st of August 1977, I moved into what is termed a lean-to type studio, which 2 weeks previous has had chickens and a donkey in there. I then started. It was hard at first, of course, because a new venture. Leather was something that the public, apart from belts, had no idea could produce such varieties. And I've progressed since then. I've now been here 24 years, and I sell all over the world. Well, the man in the street comes in, and he first of all goes for the standard things like belts for men and handbags for ladies. But I've tended to switch now and specialise in decorative panels. In some terms they're called wall hangings, other times I would just say they're pictures. I specialise in wildlife, and when members of the public come in, they are surprised to see that this is the way you can treat leather they'd never even thought of before. What we have here are semi-sculptures. They're 3D to the nth degree, as it were. This is the latest. We're in the 2000s now, and the latest thing in America and all over the world is subjects such as this. One or two people do it as a business, but we are stretched from all over the country. There are individuals doing these sort of things. Some specialise. A lot of people that have any dealings with leatherwork tend to lean towards these groups, such as the Sealed Knot, medieval reenactments, the Vikings, the Romans, and they look to the British Museum for originals and then copy them. Individual plaques and things are done by some people, but most of it is done in sort of private places rather than in the public eye. I have my own website, so therefore I can sell internationally that way. I am a member of the Wildlife Art Society, so the annual exhibition that takes place, suddenly, instead of just plain oils and watercolours, has got leather, so I'm promoting my own thing, as it were. And because the subjects I choose tend to be in the popular eye, as it were. I mean, if there's a program on the television all about otters, I will get a boom in sales of pictures of otters. So I have to be prepared to attempt all sorts of animals. And the public are very pleased because it's a different medium, something they've not seen before. You asked the question where I get my subjects from. Well, I scour magazines, I watch wildlife films, anything that catches my eye, something will click and it will say to me, now there's a subject, if you take it out of the context that it's in and put it in something else, there's a nice picture there in leather. And at the same time, my orders also have to include subjects that I wouldn't have chosen. Unfortunately, this is business, and so therefore these come from customers. And I will get a photograph of their pet dog taken on a foggy day 200 yards away and say, please can you put this on a picture? And therefore I need books on dog breeds, cat breeds and things like that to enhance my drawings. But it always has to be done as a drawing first, because in that process I can then visualize what's going to happen when it reaches the leather. First of all, you come up with a drawing. The subject in this case is the American bald eagle, and you then make a trace. Now I've traced this on a film material that is, it won't stretch, but you can use things as basic as greaseproof paper. So there is a basic outline. You then place that on the leather having first been made wet. That is placed on top, and using an instrument rather like a stylus, not sharp, just rounded, you then draw over the top of all those lines, and they leave a mark on the leather. Here, for example, is a cloud which is just marked by the outline of this stylus. The next step is to decide which of those lines are to be cut and which are left alone. In this case, most of them, apart from the clouds, have been cut. And the instrument we use is called a swivel knife. It's got a crutch at the top in which you put your finger, you place a thumb and finger around there, and it will swivel. The blade is wedge-shaped and will cut into the leather, parting it equally along the line that you've drawn. So you place that on the leather and you draw the blade towards you, cutting all the time. So we've reached the stage here where all the knife cuts have been done. The next step is to give the impression of 3D. The impression is given by pressing down the background. Now, because leather is quite tough, you place this instrument here, which is what has a name called a beveler. It has a slope on the base and a right angle up the front. You place the front edge against your knife blade, knife cut, and with a tap, you tap the leather and it crushes it away from the knife cut. And you progress by getting faster and smoother, and it gives this nice, clean, shadowy effect around the outside. It gives the illusion that the image has been pushed up, when in fact what you're doing is pushing the background down. Having gone to that stage and done the whole of the area around about, that means going around every single feather, going around all the mountain tops and the hills, creating a shadow around the outside of the broken branch which he's landing on, you then have to come up with decoration. Various tools are produced. These tools are used in conjunction with each other to produce the effect you require. For example, a tool in this manner will give you the line that you normally see down the center of a feather. So each one of these has got to have one of these down there, and then the lines that really appear on a feather you put in with a tool that has got lots of little blades on, very shallow, but they give sufficient mark for the finished product. Right, this is the modelling tool, this spoon end, which is used to put decoration on. For example, you don't need a deep cut, you just need shadow. So you can press with the modelling tool and create shadows, which then gives the impression of the mountain shapes that you require. Other tools will come into use whereby you can give darkness to the area. For example, in here, which is considered to be the part where the tree is broken, you want to show it rather dark and damaged. You can use different tools for that, but the main one is one with a texture on, which is very fine in spots. And it's a case of just hammering the background down in this manner to give a textured surface. Now that textured surface, when we get to the final stage, will come out as darker than the remainder. So, having got to the stage where we've finished decorating the picture, we can then put in last minute pieces. Using the point, you can put the simulation of the waves of the water coming towards the shore. And having satisfied yourself that you've done all the decoration you can, you then have to let it dry. Now the moisture that's in there is in the surface. Where knife cuts are close together, that moisture will have penetrated quite a long way, as can be seen here. Now that has to dry out completely, and just by leaving it as it is, naturally it will evaporate. If you try and heat it to speed up the process, the leather will shrink. And the final stage, we have to coat that in a transparent lacquer. Now the transparent lacquer is a waterproof, but at the same time it does another job, and that is that it goes into all the knife cuts, and where they've gone through the main outer surface of the leather, these knife cuts will now show up as dark lines. So really and truly what we're dealing with is something like a cartoon character with a solid outline. And when the lacquer goes on, it brings it out and makes it stand up even more than just plain drawing on a surface. Once lacquered, it can then be framed. And of course you always have to put your name in the bottom corner. Well, I hope that I've passed on enough information for people to carry on and learn and put into practice, and therefore progress in their own way. Recognition is very difficult. You sort of have to stand still long enough for people to understand that this is what you do and this is where you are. Therefore, as far as the future is concerned, I will plod on and do the same thing. I will take in whatever's new in the field, and to be able to do this, I am a member of an international guild, and therefore I've got my eye on the rest of the world and try to keep up with that, which perhaps the British public don't see. So when I do it, it becomes a first for them.